Today, the country is bracing for more possible unrest as police prepare to dismantle tents where supporters of Bolsonaro have been camped since the October vote. Well, our correspondent Jan Onoszko is in Brasilia and he joins me live now from outside the Congress where those extraordinary scenes unfolded yesterday. Jan, good to have you with us. It's just gone 10 a.m. where you are. Give us a sense then of what the atmosphere is like today.
Well, Nadia, as you said, the buildings that were ransacked in this riot yesterday are the ones just behind me. That's Congress there. The Supreme Federal Court, which was also invaded, is just over behind my other shoulder. And the Presidential Palace is also just over behind me. Now, everything is quiet here today. The cleanup operation is underway, but we're talking about damage running into millions of euros. We still haven't assessed the full damage, but artwork was ransacked. You saw the pictures there, just all the damage that was being done. And it started when around 4,000 extreme Bolsonaro supporters gathered over the weekend at the army headquarters here in Brasilia, where some of them have been camped out since Bolsonaro lost that election. And then yesterday afternoon, they started walking 5 miles, it has to be said, this is an important piece of information, 5 miles to these buildings. So it took them over an hour. There were hundreds of them wearing yellow and green. The big question today is, why did the police not stop them? The police, they passed them en route. They accompanied them in many cases and actually gave them directions of how to get here. And then when the violence started, they just looked on. That forced the federal government to issue a intervention, a federal intervention, where they take over the security of the city. The army had to be called in, and only then, after a few hours, did they manage to get the situation under control. As you said as well, those camps, those Bolsonaro camps like the one here in Brasilia, but also in other cities, Sao Paulo and Rio, the Supreme Federal Court has ordered them to all be dismantled. So that is underway now as we speak. So far, it seems that it's all passing off peacefully. The Bolsonaro supporters are leaving without resisting. But obviously, potential for some more violence in those cases as the day unfolds.
And Jan, dozens of people involved in those riots yesterday have now been arrested. But there are many people, particularly on the left in Brazil, who say it was Jair Bolsonaro himself who incited those protesters. Is it possible at some point in the future that he could be charged with what happened yesterday?
I think, Nadia, it's absolutely possible, and ironically, he may even be charged under a law that he enacted in 2021 to prevent violence against the state and possible coups. Now, at the moment, he is in Florida. Some people are saying he's in exile, but it was his choice to go there just a couple of days before Lula was sworn in as president. And in fact, one of the biggest reactions internationally has come from the US in terms of the condemnation. As you say, a copycat situation here of what happened at Congress in the US 2 years ago. And some Democrats are calling for Bolsonaro to be extradited to Brazil. Now, for him to be extradited, he'd have to be facing criminal charges. He isn't at the moment, but as you say, many people blame him. He has never officially conceded defeat to Lula. He has never ever condemned any of his supporters, despite all the violence and chaos that they have caused. So it is quite possible that the government now, the judiciary, will be looking at ways in which he could be held responsible. He has been conspicuous in his silence since he lost the election. Again, yesterday, he was conspicuous in his silence for several hours, did not react. When he did, finally, a few hours after it all started, react, he again once refused to condemn his supporters. He said that, invading buildings isn't part of the rules of the game, and something that he was waiting to see how things would unfold before he reacted. He only reacted once he realized that this coup attempt was going to fail.
Jan Onoszko live in Brasilia outside of the Congress. Thanks very much indeed.